All right, Bitcoin accumulation country, welcome to the Fun with Crypto podcast. My name is Phil. This is season 2, and we are in episode 34. Thank you for joining us. We have a very interesting interview today with Alex from Lolli.com. And what Lolli is a browser extension that allows you to get paid back in Bitcoin for online purchases. We'll let Alex tell you a lot more about that and his trip down the rabbit hole. Just want to let everybody know, though, on a side note, that I was having some ISP issues, so there might be some points where there's some slight distortion, and I do apologize for that, but I have since gotten this fixed, so it's not going to be an issue going forward. Anyways, without further ado, here is my interview with Alex from Lolli. Alex, thank you very much for joining me on my show.
Phil, thank you for having me.
All right, so look, obviously I want to talk about Lolli and I want to talk about the fact that you're building on Bitcoin, but before we get into that, I definitely want you to give the listeners your rabbit hole story. So if you can, before you decided to build on Bitcoin, you must have tumbled down the rabbit hole. So let's hear it, man.
Yeah, we all have a rabbit hole story. So yeah, I got started in Bitcoin about 5 or 6 years ago while I was building my last company. It was called Cosmic. And our whole mission was, how do we democratize commerce? How do we connect the entire world through commerce? And so we were building this, what I thought was a really cool technology that really connected merchants and publishers to let merchants sell their products anywhere. So you could be a bracelet maker in Bangladesh all the way to like the Nike store, and anyone could sell their products anywhere was the whole thesis. So I was a few years into building that. And I remember being at a bar. I was like crashing on couches in New York, and I bump into a guy named Ryan Shea, and we ended up talking about he had just really was very new to Bitcoin and was just learning about it, and he was obsessed, and he had caught the bug. He was telling it to me. He was telling me everything about it, and then I was like, oh my God, everything that I was building over the last 3 years with my last company, I was like, it's native into this currency. Bitcoin is already inherently universal. Everyone in the world can own this asset. It connects the entire world through commerce. And I had never seen anything like it. And also, you didn't need any other company to help you, transact. So it was a really interesting thing. I just sort of blew my mind. I hadn't seen anything like that had really blown my mind in that way since I was 12 and I first started dabbling on the internet. I just sort of so it blew my mind. I went deep down the rabbit hole. It never really made sense as a payment tool. And because we were partly a payments company. And I remember talking with a few merchants that were our clients about, implementing Bitcoin. What would it look like as part of our payment stack? And it never really made sense. And so that's when I first realized that I wasn't sure if Bitcoin, if the first use case or the best use case for merchant adoption and mass adoption was ever going to be as a P2P payment rail. So that sort of got my brain thinking of okay, it is incredible technology, but how do you get people to use it? And my dad is a psychotherapist, my mom child developmental specialist, and a lot of my childhood was thinking about how people make decisions and what motivates people. So I was like, God, it just racking my brain about how people are going to use Bitcoin. So my journey continues. I ended up, our company ended up doing pretty well. We ended up getting acquired by a company called Pop Sugar to come and empower one of their subsidiaries with $1.2 billion in retail revenue. The company was called ShopStyle. So we got to meet all of these fashion merchants, and it was a really cool experience. And then about a year in, a bigger company comes along. It was called Ebates, and Ebates bought us away from Pop Sugar. And so then we got to come in and we were going to power the biggest cashback site in the US. So we were there for about a year, got to learn the cashback model. And then I sort of had this cryptocurrency. This was 2017. And it was right when, cryptocurrencies were going back into vogue. And I just remember getting re-inspired by everything that was going on. I was like, oh my God, this is like a cashback program would be an incredible way to distribute Bitcoin to people and start people off with their first wallet. So I remember pitching it to Ebates, and they weren't into it. They had a CEO change. They had a lot going on over there, a lot of different directives. And I was, running the same company for like 7 years at this point. So I was just like, I was getting kind of bored, just running the company. And so we ended up parting ways. After taking some time off and really thinking about like what I wanted to build, I just kept coming back to this idea of Ebates for Bitcoin. How do you give people Bitcoin and start people off with their first wallet? And that's how we came up with Lolli. So we built it with the same team that we've been working together. A lot of us have been working together for 6-7 years now. And so, yeah, same team, very similar dream with the democratization of commerce, which was our mission from day one, 7-8 years ago. And now I think we've created the easiest way for people to earn and get into Bitcoin.
Okay, so I think that's a absolutely incredible story, and I mean, Ebates, that's pretty crazy. So I mean, that's pretty awesome. And I just want to I just want to point out that what you're doing is like, kind of like, you're following in the same footsteps as other great creators, because you're taking two existing technologies and through creativity, you're putting them together to provide that user experience. Because let's face it, the reality is that's what's missing, right? Like if somebody can easily just put a browser plugin, have a Bitcoin wallet, and be able to get paid in it, well, all of a sudden there's a lot of the difficulty gets gets taken away. Because like I don't know how, you know what I mean? I don't know, in the words of Trace Mayer, I don't know what kind of a Bitcoin citizen you are, whether you're first, second, or third class, but if you know what I mean, like, if you run your own node, if you have a hardware wallet and you go through these things, like, that there's like a heavy duty learning curve, which
there's a massive learning curve. That was one of my frustrations, and part of why I just was like, no one is going we are never going to hit hyper Bitcoinization if everybody needs to run their own node, or everybody's a miner, or everyone has to be an investor, because most of the world are not investors. Most of the world is not technologically savvy enough or can afford to get set up on mining equipment and make money from it. So we have to get more creative in the mechanics of how we're distributing Bitcoin to people, and more importantly, how we're educating people through giving them skin in the game. So we could go like yell at them on the TV. We could say, Bitcoin's up, like get into it. But if you're not making it easy for somebody to get involved, it's just going to be really difficult. So Coinbase got the first wave of mass adopters involved by making a very simple investment tool, by making a very simple, basically crypto bank. And so that attracted like investors. And I think it's estimated they have about 10 million active wallets, active users, which is great. First, step but there's 7 billion people in the world, and hypothetically, everybody that has the internet should have Bitcoin. It is the native, digitally native currency, digitally native store of value right now. And so if we're ever going to get to, hypothetically, 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion people, you need to take something that is more intuitive, and take something that everyone does already and make it easy for them to adopt something. So I kind of look at Lolli. We have two real customers. We have the Bitcoin maximalists that want to accumulate more Bitcoin, stack more sats, and love Lolli because, of course, we're Bitcoin only. And then we have the people who are brand new to Bitcoin that don't have any Bitcoin, don't have a Coinbase account, and they're experiencing Bitcoin for the very first time because they're taking something that they're already doing, which is shop. Everybody shops, and they're earning Bitcoin. The beautiful part that a lot of people don't realize is when you give someone skin in the game, even if it's $10, $20, $30, whatever it is in Bitcoin, they get to play a part of this new financial future, and they get to see Bitcoin do the exact same shit that we've seen for the last several years. They see it go up, they see it go down, and naturally they're like, why is my $30 $90? Why is my $90 $50? Why is it going up and down? And so people, like, money attracts people. It's like a magnet. It's like, how do I make more money so that I can have more freedom? That's what we're all doing in this world, I think. And so if we're all looking for more freedom and this money is going up and down and historically up, then they're going to pay attention to it and they're going to ask, why is it going up? The same way that they're going to ask, how can I get more money? How can I get paid more? And so it's our job as being this on the forefront of Bitcoin adoption to also teach our users about Bitcoin, why it's so important, and how do we share it with more people. So that's our job in the space. That's our purpose. Democratize commerce, give as many people Bitcoin as possible, and do it through a real existing business model that does very, very well, just independently, even with a cashback model. So yeah, it's existing business model. It works, and we're able to give people free Bitcoin and give them skin in the game with this whole world of this new financial system that we're building.
Very cool. I'm gonna obviously in the show notes, I'm gonna post a link to your website, for the listeners to go check it out. And I have it installed. It's a Chrome browser extension. It's very, very easy to install. I was actually on the website. I was talking to you about this before the podcast started. On the finishline.com, I was looking for a hoodie, and because I had the browser plugin, I got a pop up right there that showed that I got. I think it was like 3.5 or 4.5% Bitcoin back on my purchase, which is totally cool because
free money.
Because otherwise, like I got to go buy it, which don't get me wrong, I don't mind. I use shout out to Cash App. I love the Cash App. I know you mentioned Coinbase earlier. Don't get me wrong. Totally. It's awesome that they're, bringing people in and everything like that. But, they're kind of shady and whatever. I got my opinion about them, but hey, adoption has all kinds of players, right? We've got the good guys, we've got the bad guys, and everybody kind of, rumbles it out.
Yeah, I think that the Coinbase argument is interesting. In one case, they've done more for Bitcoin than any other company, in the world, arguably. But like they've brought so many people into Bitcoin. But then once they're into Bitcoin, then they're using it as a gateway to shill all these other coins. And on one hand, I believe in a free market and people should do their own research and be able to, choose their own coins. But there's a certain threshold where it's like, did you really need to do that? Did you really need to bring on those new coins? Is the education piece, like, do you really need to educate someone on a token that is not going to have any real world value for the next 10 years, if at all? And so there's this debate, but when you really look at the business model of an exchange versus a cashback program, it becomes clear what people are optimizing for. Exchanges make money on transactions. So they're making money every time that you buy a shit coin, buy an altcoin, whatever it is, and every time you transfer. So they're training these like their active customer, their best customer is somebody that is a day trader, is somebody who wants all of these tokens, who wants to get rich and wants to buy all these things. It's like they don't make any money when you just hold. So what we're optimizing for is actually something different. It's like, okay, you have to go get groceries instead of getting groceries at the place that you're getting. Go to one of our grocery stores, earn Bitcoin when you get the groceries. If you have to travel, go to booking.com, hotels.com through Lolly and earn Bitcoin back. We're optimizing for everybody to earn, and we don't need to have a new token, a new coin, or anything for the model to be successful.
So let's obviously let's talk about that, because of course I love the fact that you didn't make some shitcoin, like some shitcoin cashback thing, or like something like Brave. So why did you why did you specifically choose to to build it on Bitcoin?
Yeah, so it's the Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency, in my opinion, so far that has 100% proven its value to society, and it's not going anywhere. Yeah. And every other token, every other coin I've seen, sure, there's some that I've seen that have value or could potentially have value, and I don't want to discount anything. I want people to prove me wrong, but so many of them have not proven that they are the Bitcoin of whatever they're doing, of decentralized apps, of DeFi or discount tokens or whatever there is. No, I have not seen anything that has 100% proven to me that it has value, long-term value in society. So Bitcoin has already proven that in my opinion, clearly, but I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. And I'm always optimistic that something will replace Bitcoin. To be perfectly honest, like every time I think Bitcoin has a flaw, something comes out that shows me that it was a feature, not a flaw. It was part of what makes it so powerful and what makes it so important. And second layer solutions have come out and made Bitcoin already more scalable and are really, really exciting. Like Lightning Network, Liquid, two incredibly exciting, underrated projects that are solving a lot of the things that were my early critiques of Bitcoin. You know, when I was looking at a bunch of different coins and tokens and everything, it's like people keep solving all the problems around Bitcoin, which make it so exciting.
It's interesting that you mentioned that at the beginning about, you know, like looking for issues in it. I mentioned on previous podcasts, you know, it's like every day I wake up and like I try to destroy Bitcoin, and every day I can't, and so I buy more Bitcoin. Because like I just can't come up with, like, as soon as like I think I've come up with like, all right, yeah, this is why it's not going to work, and okay, no, I find something that goes I find something that goes against it that actually makes sense, you know. So it definitely it's tough to destroy. There's a reason it's called the honey badger, you know.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I mean, what about like, so take us a little bit. So right now you guys are doing this browser extension and, you know, things are starting to pick up. Is there is there anything that you can share about the future roadmap with Lolly?
Yeah, so we just started work on a mobile app that a lot of people are really excited about.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably most excited about it. I'm actually like getting to like play with early versions of it. I think it's super exciting. And the whole idea is like, how do we make Bitcoin more a part of your daily life? So how do we form habits around Bitcoin that are aside from price? Like if you have to, you know, if you get coffee every morning, if you have to go get gasoline, if you're going and like getting an Uber or Lyft, like all of those moments are moments, like in our case, to remind you about Bitcoin. And if every single time you can stack sats or, you know, earn Bitcoin, those are all teaching moments to educate you on why Bitcoin is so important, to remind you about maybe price is most important at this moment because it's going up. Maybe it's you know, something about it that's like, you know, showing you that it's free, like free money, freedom money is, you know, more specifically. And so I think like there's all these important teaching moments, but right now Bitcoin's current use case for most people is just holding it, which is great. That's amazing. That's where it starts. But you need to, like any app or any pervasive technology, it needs to be a ritual. It needs to be a daily thing. And one thing we do every single day is take out our credit cards. We pay for something. We have to. This is like how the world works. So if we can be at every point of purchase and every moment to remind somebody about Bitcoin, that's what I'm really excited about. And so mobile does that for us. And then I'm also like, you know, designing and thinking a lot about experiences that help people earn more Bitcoin. So it's not just around shopping, it's around holding. So can you give people the ability to lend out Bitcoin? Can you give people better interest rates than their banks? There's all of these experiences, I think, that get really exciting when you start to think about the user, the average consumer, as being their own bank. They should be making money like a bank makes money. And right now, we hodl cash in the bank, and the bank makes money off of us. We don't really make any real money in comparison because it's, you know, these big clunky organizations that are making money off of us holding the money there. If we are our own banks, then we should be making money off our own money, and there needs to be services and tools that are built to give people the ability to earn more Bitcoin being their own bank.
I really like that idea. That's genius, because as you know, right now the platforms that exist are like you know, Celsius Network and you know, BlockFi. So again, you have to give up your Bitcoin, send it to some other platform, and let's be honest, at that moment, it's not really yours anymore. I mean, sure, they have, like, I know that there's a bunch of, there's a bunch of red tape, multi-sig, that's perfectly fine and dandy, but I don't care. For, to your point, it's like, if we could actually take it to that point where the individual is empowered in the same way as the bank, then that could be a very interesting future.
Yeah, I think so too. So we haven't made any massive like product decisions on that front just yet. But it's things that like keep me up at night and get me really excited for the future. So I think it's an interesting framework that I just like to share of like, I think if we are self-sovereign banks, there's opportunities that people should have to make money as being their own bank, which is, I think, an exciting future.
Yeah, I think that's totally interesting. It's what I was just thinking of it, widespread micro lending. That's essentially what you would have out there, and it would be interesting, right? You could have like multiple micro lenders come together to fulfill one loan obligation if they're all willing to sign into the same time period. And
yeah, so that
could be interesting.
That I love that you bring that up, because that's the original. That's like literally the how I started thinking about Bitcoin, or just whatever democratization of commerce. Like, at the beginning of the show, I was talking about democratization of commerce being like the thesis behind Cosmic, my last company. But how I actually got excited about that was I was studying economics in school, and I remember learning about microfinance and all the initiatives around the Grameen Bank and the what Kiva was doing at the time with microfinance, and creating more efficient systems to do micro payments, microfinance. And to connect us, basically being like a bunch of mini banks, giving all these micro loans. But what needed, like where it sort of broke down, is that you needed this institution at the local level that was actually like there was the intermediary, and you had all these NGOs that were also operated very inefficiently, or where there was not extreme transparency, and then they would give the money to the individual to go hopefully make back that money. But you can't go give an individual money. And there was all these other intermediaries. And so at the end of the day, it was basically like a bunch of like little inefficient banks that made it really difficult for them to operate. And so I wasn't completely sold on microfinance at that moment, but it sort of got the wheels turning about what would be a better financial system. And having all of these frustrations, and I've been building technology for the last 14 years, professionally at least, and I was always frustrated with like payment rails, banks, being 16, 17 years old and trying to apply to have a banking, license or whatever it was, and be realized you need $5 million minimum to start a bank, and it's like, wait a second, why? I can be my own bank. I should be able to be my own bank. I should be able to pay anyone I want. I should be able to hold money as a company. There should be all of these things that we are given, but we're not. And so you shouldn't need $5 million minimum to start a bank, and you shouldn't be charged 3% on every transaction to go transfer money all around the world. That's just like not how the world should operate. And so eventually, with enough like tension, that like these ideas start to churn out of like what's better money, what's a better bank, and then Bitcoin emerges. I'm like, holy shit! Like that is what I've been like. That is what should exist.
I obviously I totally agree, but like that's so maybe the microbank comes a couple of steps down the road,
Yeah. But if you have any ideas, feel free to share.
Definitely.
I'm just thinking a lot on it.
I'm a huge fan of. I shouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but like I understand how payment systems work, just because I was always fascinated by Visa and MasterCard.
Yes.
It's like and in no way, I just want to say to the listeners, in no way am I comparing Bitcoin itself to Visa and MasterCard. Any Bitcoiner knows the difference, that Bitcoin is the base layer, Visa and MasterCard is like a layer 2 or layer 3 solution on our banking system. But essentially, like, they get paid per transaction. And that's why I fell in love with the Lightning Network, right? Because right away I was like, every single person can be their own Visa and MasterCard. Every single person can offer up, like, okay, Visa and MasterCard do not offer up collateral. They are simply the network runners.
Exactly.
But that piece, it's like, don't get me wrong, you kind of have to have a horseshoe. Those companies, like, the barrier to entry into that realm is so high that the only thing you could do is do what Bitcoin did and create Lightning. You know, like, otherwise you're stuck being, and I'm not bashing Amex, but you're stuck being an Amex or a Discover with a very, very small market share. Don't get me wrong, multi-billion-dollar corporations, but
relatively low.
Relatively small. Visa and MasterCard, you know, Visa owns, what is it? Visa owns 40%, 60%. MasterCard owns 40% relatively. I mean, that's like, and the rest of them fight for that minor percentage crumb, you know?
Exactly.
So it's like, to me, like, that's the piece on Bitcoin. Like, I think, like, Lightning introduces us to it, but I like what you've done with the browser extension, because even though Lightning is cool, and I'm not comparing your browser extension to Lightning, but I'm talking about the user experience, Lightning brought in the next step of the user that's less technical than, like, the really, like, I'd say than the truly earliest adopter, in terms of technical capability, you know, being able to run Bitcoin Core way back in the day and whatnot. But, like, then you get Lightning, which makes it easier. You have a nice user front end, but Lolly really brings it to the next step where I don't need to have that front end. I just need to have this piece that lets me transact and get this currency. So I really like, I definitely like what you're doing there, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how you build this up in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. I look at Lightning. I love what Lightning is doing. You know, Elizabeth and Bosworth and the whole team over there. I've just really enjoyed getting to know over the last year, and they've been super supportive. And I'm really excited to implement it. I think it's like really, it's, you know, an incredible technology that enables Bitcoin to scale, and enable, like, ideally, I would love to create like Bitcoin, Visa for Bitcoin. It starts with Ebates because, as you said, it's really difficult to disrupt a business model that is so, like, I mean, Visa is just so big. I don't think people realize, like, how many payments they process. But with any incumbent, the bigger they are, the bigger they'll fall. And I think that, like, they're actually going to be a great partner. Personally, they just have the network laid out, and we need that network. And so, I personally think they'll be a great partner. And we've actually been talking to them and a few other credit card companies about what would a partnership look like to distribute Bitcoin to the right people. And they have a lot of Bitcoin Maximals over there. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but they're almost trying to disrupt their own business. And so that's really exciting to me. That makes me really long Bitcoin when I go into these meetings, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, the companies that we're looking at, you know, that we think Bitcoin's going to replace, like, they're actually trying to replace themselves. So seeing that gets me really excited. And I think there's a lot of potential for companies like ours to work with them because they already have the network, and we come in with, like, new users, new partnerships, different technology, not built on archaic rails, and, you know how to, like, you know, work within the existing Bitcoin ecosystem.
I'm already a Visa shareholder, but you just got me super bullish on them again. But as you know, they own 20% of Cash App. So they're, you know, to your point, you know, there's definitely Bitcoin maximalists there because, you know, they've got their teeth in Cash App. So yeah, that is pretty cool. That is definitely cool. So, do you have any, if you were to give any advice to somebody new stepping in the space, right? Because at the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about, you know, like, kind of like educating somebody, right? Like, part of that mission statement that you have at Lolly is like, yeah, you know, you want to help with adoption, but, you know, you also want to help, you know, like, educate people into the space. Like, that's something that I was discussing today on Twitter with somebody. And you know, when I look at the texts that are out there, you know, like shelling out and everybody's a scammer and, you know, planting Bitcoin and all these, like, really amazing texts that, like, really lay out the foundations of Bitcoin. You have to be already, like, fairly tumbling down the rabbit hole to get those texts. You know what I mean?
Exactly. There's not a lot.
Like, what's out there?
There's so much out there. And then people evolve with their audience. So a lot of people's, like, the podcasters have they got, quote unquote famous by evolving with the miners, or involving with the investor groups. Now there's this whole new phase of customers that are like, customers, users, adopters, whatever you call them, that are coming in, and who's making the BuzzFeed for Bitcoin? Like, who's making the super easy listicle that like will get lots of people into Bitcoin? And so I think, like, I personally think it's like this flywheel. Like, every time that we're on a new podcast, every time that there's an article written, every time there's a tweet that says, "Hey, I'm stacking sats with Lolly," it's another moment to like share with somebody that there is an easier way to get into Bitcoin. And then every time it comes up in conversation of like, I don't really want to pay for Bitcoin, I don't really want to invest, I don't really invest. And then people say, just use Lolly. Like, and then it's our job to continue to educate. And Bitcoin will already kind of educate, but we like curate, we hire writers to publish content on our blog. And we have some really cool strategies coming up that you'll see on our email distribution that will educate people on more of a regular cadence about things that are going on in Bitcoin, and make it really, really simple for people to stay up to date in all the coolest things that are happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Really cool, really cool. So, okay, we're gonna wrap this up. But do you have any final thoughts for the listeners?
Stack sats, like, get people involved in earning. I think it's like, I personally, I've never had to, I've converted a lot of people clearly to Bitcoin, but I've never told them to buy Bitcoin. And I'm not saying that that's like a wrong, like that you shouldn't say that. I just personally, like, I don't give financial advice to anybody. It's sort of like this, like, I don't know, weird, maybe like Catholic guilt or something. So I just feel like I think everyone should download Lolly, and we're building something because we truly believe in it. We built it for our friends, our family, for them all to get into Bitcoin. And like, I hope everyone will at least give it a shot. And at the very least, you get free Bitcoin, and I think everyone that's listening to the show can agree that is a net good thing.
Totally agreed. So, Alex, thank you very much for being with the Fun with Crypto podcast tonight. And we're going to list your what's the best way to for listeners to reach you?
Yeah, so we're super active on Twitter. It's Try Lolly is the handle. I'm at Alex Edelman. And yeah, I until I can't anymore, I am going to be super accessible. You can slide into my DMs. You can reach out to me. Happy to answer any and all questions. And then if there's ever any issue, support@lolly.com is like a super easy way. Our support team's amazing. You can ask for recommendations on those hoodies that you're looking for, on anything you want. So
cool.
Yeah, just like reach out to us and lolly.com. And actually, I encourage you to share your ref link. We'll make you a custom one. Because if you don't use a ref link, then you don't get, you can give out free $10. So I'll show for you. But I think, we want to give people free Bitcoin. That's part of our brand. So I encourage you to put your ref link in the bottom, and we'll take care of that after the show.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me. Great questions.
Thank you. Bye. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. If you want to reach me, I can be found on Twitter and Telegram. I'm at CoinIcarus. By email, it's funwithcrypto@protonmail.com, and I'll have Alex's details in the show notes for his contact information and his website as well. So, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll catch you all next time.